Good morning.
Morning.
So I want you, before we start, please look over to your neighbor and say, Happy Africa Day.
Happy Africa Day.
So guys, we're here with Idris. Idris, thank you so much for making it. I know that, we made it happen real last minute and you took the time away from your real busy schedule. You're shooting right now to be here with us and celebrate Africa Day. So you gonna spill the tea, as the kids would say? What are you filming? Who is it with? When is it coming out? When should we anticipate and all that?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Google team, you, Alex, as well, and the team for having me. Thanks for coming at the last minute. I appreciate it. Happy Africa Day. I'm actually right now shooting a film called Heads of State. It's a buddy cop. It's a buddy movie between the British Prime Minister and the US Prime Minister, and they get into this crazy caper. So can you guess which Prime Minister I'm gonna be?
Yeah, that's a good guess.
Actually, it's a film with myself and John Cena, and John Cena plays the American president, very comedic guy. A comedic American president. And I play a British Prime Minister.
Awesome. Thanks for spilling the tea. So we're gonna get you warmed up a little bit more because I see, trying to get you away from set and with us. Some rapid fire questions to get you warmed up. You ready for that?
Let's go.
All right, cool. So, you do everything, man. Restaurateur, actor, DJ, artist. Where's your heart? Which one is the one that you love the most?
Not to sound corny, the thing I do the best, I think, is I'm a dad.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that is actually the hardest one of the jobs, period. Shout out to the parents who know. But honestly, I feel like, as we've gotten into the age of sort of naming what people do, you know what I mean? I grew up as a single child, only child. And, you just do everything as an only child because your imagination's so vast and wild and you're doing everything. And I think acting is where my heart's at. It's where I sort of, I guess flourished as a young man. I started acting at 14 years old when as an adolescent, you don't even know who you are, let alone playing other characters. And I think in that space, I grew very quickly, so I'd say acting.
Okay. Now, where's your favorite place? I mean, I know you're always globetrotting, filming here, filming there, business here, business there. Where would you say is the place that feels like home? Even if it's just spiritually feels like home.
Oh man, it's difficult, because I go to Jamaica a lot. Hey, it's Africa Day. I'm gonna say Jamaica.
Hey, Jamaica. Idris, you feel the
Africans are everywhere. What can I say?
Okay.
On the continent, though, definitely, when I go to Sierra Leone, which is where my dad's from, I feel very much at home. Sierra Leone is just, I don't know, the energy there is just wicked, My skin looks good out there. I don't know what's going on. It's just a really nice environment for me. And of course, my mum is from Ghana. I go to Ghana and I'm Ghanaian, Etienne, and I feel very comfortable and good there. So it's hard to pick one.
Yeah, I mean, yes, yeah, you were gonna get in real trouble if you didn't say Ghana. If you guys haven't seen it, Idris went to Ghana and they made you a chief, right? Something. You had this whole. If you see the picture, I was like, hey, boss, what's going on?
I went to. I was shooting a documentary at the moment about gold and human beings' fascination with gold. It's a long history. And of course, you can't talk about gold without thinking about Africa. And of course, we went to the Gold Coast and went to Ghana and we went to meet the Ashanti King. He invited me to come to his procession where he meets all of his chiefdoms in the Ashanti King. And of course, I had to dress appropriately. So they gave me this very beautiful traditional garb to wear. And that's the picture he's talking about because, I'm sitting at this chair watching and I've got my glasses on and everyone's looking like, who's this chief? We don't know this guy.
Okay, now going back to it, your heroes. Any heroes that you kind of think, when you're growing up?
Yeah, man, I'm not really one for hero worship. It's weird. Spider-Man, I don't know. Of course, I I admire many different people for many different reasons, but hero worship, I haven't really sort of leaned into that. I'd say my parents are my heroes for sure. Only child, came from Sierra Leone, you know, at the tail end of the 60s, had one child and, you know, and tried to make a living for themselves. And, you know, that's hard, you know, that's hard. I don't know if anyone's emigrated from one place to another. When you move to another country, it's tough, let alone trying to make a new life for yourself. And, you know, England at that time, you know, of course it was welcoming to I guess the British colonies at the time, but it wasn't very welcoming if you're, you know, two Africans in East London, you know, it was tough. So I think my parents would be my heroes for sure.
Man, he getting all the right answers. Yeah. Now, I think we're finally getting the last one. Who makes the best jollof? And let's, all of Africa's watching right now, so don't get it wrong.
I didn't hear the question. Anyway. My man, what are you doing?
All right, so you're not really going to answer that. Fair enough. I'll keep you safe. I'll keep you safe. Now, we're here to celebrate Africa Day. You've celebrated this with us over the last 3 years as you two. We've worked on our Africa Day concert, which has been really important. Why have you leaned into Africa Day, and what's the significance for you in terms of this day, which of course is actually today is actually the 60th year of Africa Day, which is some, you know, a really important time for us.
Yeah, you know, I want to start by saying, first of all, in Sierra Leone, in Freetown, there's a very famous monument, which is a tree called the cotton tree, and it's a beautiful symbol. It's been there for hundreds of years, and last night, in the middle of the raining season, it broke in half. And it is incredibly sad for Sierra Leoneans, and just incredibly sad for West Africa, because Sierra Leone, Freetown especially, was the sort of port of return. And at the docks there where Cotton Tree is, that's where you would see this huge symbol. And it just, I don't know, I just felt like I needed to share that today, because it's very sad for Sierra Leoneans and West Africa for me, but it happened on Africa Day, okay? And the 60th anniversary. They're not connected, but, you know, it just felt like important to just highlight that, you know, Africa, there's a change coming, you know, there's a change coming. And, you know, Africa has, in my opinion, the most amount of growth potential in all of the continents around the world, as a people, as a geographical location. It just has the most growth potential. And, you know, we celebrate Africa Day as the moment where, you know, the nations decided to work together 60 years ago, where, you know, Africa actually had a lot of progression, some good things were happening, you know, and at the junction where they decided, let's pull this together and stand together as one, that's an amazing time. It's amazing thinking. If we imagine today, that, you know, I don't know, Europe decided to, the European Union's there already, but if you imagine there was a coalition, it was like, today's the day we're gonna do this. And that's why Africa Day is so significant. And for a long time, it's just gone under the radar, you know. Its significance has gone under the radar. And I think, you know, as someone that has, you know, I use storytelling as my medium, you know, just telling the story of the day that Africa actually stood united is important. It's just an important day to go, hey guys, as much as whatever you think about Africa and its history, its conflict, whatever, there was a time where we all actually said, no, we're gonna be a United States, actually, we're gonna pull together, and that was Africa Day. So that's why it's important for us, and especially, you know, the generation, younger generations, our generations, who don't really understand the significance of it. What we did, especially over the pandemic, and sort of celebrating Africans' unionship via the music and the culture, and, you know, doing these concerts and playing each other our music and showing the videos, just keeps the fire burning, keeps the narrative going. It's important, I think, for the, you know, a younger generation to understand that, hey, you know what? Africa hasn't always been in conflict. You know, we had a moment of union. So that's why it's important to me. And as also as someone that wants to see the future of Africa really progress, you know what I mean? It is important that the union is a part of that progression. It's massively important.
If you haven't seen the Africa Day concerts, it's on YouTube. So please go check it out. Idris, of course, hosted it for 3 years in a row. Growing up in East London, as a young African Brit, what would you say? How did Africa come into your life? How did it influence your upbringing?
Yeah, I grew up in East London, which had a big sort of Afro-Caribbean community, you know, lots of West Indians. And, you know, quite honestly, growing up being African was embarrassing. It was like, you're African? You know, you'd say my name, Idrissa. Oh man, you know, yeah, I'm here. And I remember at school, you know, my middle name's Akuna. You could not get a more African sounding name than Akuna. I wanted to be Jason so bad in school, you know? And it was partly because there was this narrative that Africans were dirty, poor, famine-stricken, you know, always fighting each other. And that wasn't just coming from, you know, the Anglos or whites or anyone else. It was coming from other, you know, Caribbeans, you know. And, you know, it was like, you know, in the 80s, I remember when I first started this new school, I moved from Hackney to Canning Town, and I was probably about 12. And I was a very thin kid, you know. I grew up, you know, I glowed up. We'll see my muscles. When I was around 30, I was skinny. And I walked into this new school in Canning Town, and as soon as I opened the door, this one kid stood up. It was chemistry, I'll never forget it. He turned around and looked, and he started singing "Feed the World." You know that song?
Wow, that's heavy.
Literally, feed the world. I'm not gonna sing it for you, but the whole class bust up laughing as I walked in. It was my first day at school. I just looked, and the teacher was like, "Stop it, Richard. This is it Idrissa?" Yeah, this is Idrissa. He's come and join us. I walked in there, man, like, fuck, you know, excuse my language. And that guy ended up being my best friend to this day. Boogie, shout out Boogie. But that was sort of the experience of being an African. You know, it's extreme. I'm telling an extreme story, but ultimately, you know, I didn't feel very proud of being African. It wasn't until much later in my life that it was like, you know what? I'm from Sierra Leone. I'm half Ghanaian. This is who I am.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same experience growing up in the U.S. or moving to the U.S. at age 12, but let's not get into that. This is about you. It's about you. Now, bringing it back to present day, Afrobeats, piano is now in the mainstream. I think in a lot of ways it's changing the narrative on Africa. What's your view of that as someone that's obviously heavily into music? What's your view of the influence that Africa now has on global culture?
I mean, you know, not to sound controversial, but soul music, blues music's all African. You know what I mean? It's all African, and you know the fact that Afrobeats, which has a title and a name and now a location that comes from, you know, Nigeria or Ghana or High Life or whatever, great. But you know, I think African music has been dominating for a very, very long time, and I'm very happy to see this sort of new energy and explosion of it. It's about time, right? But it also encourages the idea that this is why, you know, Afrobeats changes the narrative for how people see Africa now, a lot. And, you know, when I was growing up, you saw America via the music videos, and you saw the culture. It was breakdancing, it was rappers, and, you know, you was like, wow, you know, it was sitcoms and all of that. And that visual stimuli was like, America is the shit, I want to go there. And Africa is doing exactly the same thing via Afrobeats. You know, it's a very powerful narrative. It's shifting, it's moving. People are like, yo, Africa is cool. And it is, and it has always been. So I'm very happy for it. I'm excited by it. I'm encouraged by it. And, I want to see that energy transfer to other areas. You know, I want to obviously see it transfer to film and storytelling. There's no doubt we've seen a very rich, long history of filmmaking in Nigeria, especially, but in Kenya and in other parts of West Africa. Francophone countries have been making African film for a long time, but it didn't paint this beautiful love letter of Africa. It's a lot about the conflict and the trauma, which is natural, of course. So, but Afrobeats is like, yo, life is good. You know what I mean? You know, and I want to see that transfer to film. But I'd also love to see that energy now transfer to the sort of infrastructure of business and progress. You know what I'm saying? And let's find out what the mechanism is that paints the love letter of Africa as a place to grow and do business in, you know?
Now, speaking of film, I know that we've made a lot of film on the continent, but you're now heavily leaned in, as you said, to try to see how you can transfer that narrative as well into the film space. What are you seeing in that space? What do you think the opportunities are in the film industry? How do you think the stories can be elevated to be able to sort of have the same impact?
Well, again, you know, it's propaganda, quite honestly. You know, we can tell stories of Africa that paint a picture of prosperity, not just for an international window, but within ourselves. You know, it'd be good for Africans to see positivity from their own storytelling. You know what I mean? I think it's also an incredible industry that encourages employment, business, in many sectors. The film industry is a bit like the army. You know, it has many different components to it, but it is one component and one entity. And so I believe the employment opportunity and business opportunity in the film industry is huge, huge. Not to mention the narrative shift internally and externally, so people can look at Africa and be like, wow, okay, I'm interested in that area. Education, you know, again, the film industry offers everything from performance to science. And within that, you know, people can sort of, I guess, be educated in different areas. So, you know, I think the film industry has a massive sort of opportunity, huge opportunity. It's a very lucrative business for many parts of the world, including this country, okay? But in Africa, you know, the potential there is huge. My focus has been on figuring out how to build capacity. You know, there are storytellers there and have been for a long time, but the capacity is small. You know, there's 1.4 billion people. There is less than 300 cinemas in Africa, and don't quote me on that, but there are a significantly not enough amount of cinemas. That experience isn't one that we can call African. The experience of going into a cinema and watching a film, and that should change. I think that could be something that needs to change. And so my focus has been on trying to build that capacity via facilities. So in South Africa, there's Pinewood Studios. It's a big studio. It's great, and it feeds not only South African film, but it feeds international film. But in West Africa, there isn't such a facility. So that's been my focus. It's like, how can I build capacity, i.e. bring in facility, bring in industry there. My hopes are to build an educative strand to it, so a series of film schools that allow to, again, build that capacity.
So you want to do film schools, you want to, like what specifically, film schools, you want to build a studio, you want to make film?
Yeah.
What kind of stories do you want to tell? What kind of stories does
I can tell you what I don't want to tell. I do not want to tell movies or stories about conflict. I don't want to tell stories about the trauma that Africa has been through. There is a time and a place for history, no doubt. But for me, I want to tell futurist stories. Stories that are relatable to an international audience, but are traditional in heritage, you know. I want to, you know, Africans are incredibly agile. As you said, you know, I do 16 different things, but I don't consider it as that. I just have the capacity to be agile. And when you don't have much, then you can't be choosy. You know what I'm saying? You say, oh, I'm going to try it all. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that agility, there's stories within that agility that I think I could talk about. you know. I'm keen to make stories about innovation, you know. We've never seen a love story about a farmer, right? We just haven't.
Farmer love story.
Yeah, man, I know. I'm not pitching it right, but the point is, you know, agriculture needs to be given some love in Africa because agriculture is a big opportunity for Africans to feed ourselves and take what's natural to us and grow from it. And so, you know, that's the kind of, you know, area. Honestly, it's idealistic, but ultimately as a filmmaker, that's how you start stories, you know. You tell the weirdest and craziest story and you make it make sense. And that's where I'm coming from.
So just double clicking on that, speaking to Mr. Kugler and on Wakanda.
Did you just say double clicking?
Yes, yes. Don't start that. Don't start your. No, don't do it. We're in public.
No, double click.
We're in public right now. So, just dude. So just getting into that a little bit more. Wakanda happened. The world is excited about Africa. It shows a completely different image of Africa, which is kind of what we've tried to do on the music side as well. Yes, it doesn't have to be big budget like that all the time to do it. But why do you think there hasn't been the sort of the velocity to create more of those stories, the positive stories that you're thinking about? Do you think it takes us to be able to do it? Or what do you think needs to happen for people to sort of, the appetite to grow?
Well, I think we need to see more films that, you know, paint Africa in a different light and spark the imaginations of writers and storytellers. And by storytellers, I just don't mean someone that has got a great idea for a sci-fi. I mean people that podcast, people that tell news stories. You know, we have to spark the imagination. I think there hasn't been an appetite because we have been, you know, literally spoon-fed a narrative about Africa. You know, how many people haven't been to Africa here?
No, don't be embarrassed. You can raise your hand. Maybe we'll take you.
And I mean, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but is there a reason why you haven't gone yet? Is anyone happy to say why they haven't gone? Haven't had a chance? All right, it's fair enough. I mean, it doesn't seem super touristy. That's great. I mean, and that's crazy. it's very touristy and there's so much to do. And tourism in a different way as well, you know. And I think that's part of what the answer is how do we create that velocity, is shifting the narrative, shifting the lens of what people see. And that's where people like me and you and, you know, this opportunity where you've put me on the map to talk about Africa on Africa Day, that's great because that's the progression of that. I think that Hollywood has to, you know, when I say Hollywood, but that, you know, filmmaking engine has to sort of see the economical side of it, all right? And obviously Marvel and the Wakanda movies did very well. So there it is, tick, you know, people were interested in seeing Africa in a different light, let's go.
Now, I know that you know that I know there's a lot of talent on the ground, but are there those that inspire you, that you think are amazing, that should be doing more work, that are from the continent that you want to work with? Yeah,
I mean, without naming names, of course, there are so many people. As we talked about earlier, with the lovely intro, which, can I steal that after? But my work with the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, you know, it sort of focuses on agriculture and trying to find ways for agriculture to become sustainable, as we're sort of all looking at this food crisis that is going to happen and is happening. The innovators, the young farmers again, but the young innovation that's happening around agriculture is incredible. You know, the way people are using Google tools actually to sort of figure out, you know, climate, combat climate crisis stuff is fascinating to me. And that sector I've really had, especially in Kenya, they've really been looking into tech and finding ways to sort of, you know, be innovative to build agriculture business. Of course, the film industry, recently I worked with Mo Abudu, who you know, in Nigeria. She's a for those who don't know, she has a company called Ebony Life, and she has been making films for a good number of years. But I really admire, what she's managed to do on very small budgets and the impact that she's had internationally. She has a deal with Netflix at the moment. And that to me is great, you know what I mean? Because she's actually pushing the envelope internationally, not just on the continent. Although on the continent, she's, respected. In the music industry, like, I'm just fascinated to see the Burna Boys and the Whiz Kids, become the biggest pop stars in the world. But behind them, this incredible network of young producers, young videographers, young creatives, young, fashion designers. I'm wearing a guy called Yeboah. He's from Ghana and he's dope, you know what I'm saying? And like that network of just talent is so rich in Africa. So yeah, man, I mean, I'm really impressed by the talent pool and the innovative thinkers.
Fantastic. So if you were to summarize, and before we get into the Dorian and get the audience to ask you some questions, what's the singular message that you would want to leave with anyone to inspire them to kind of lean in on the African narrative in terms of, investing in Africa and creating content in Africa and championing Africa?
I think I'd start by saying, go to Africa and be a tourist. Go have some fun. It's a beautiful place. I'd also say, look, it's all about ones and zeros ultimately, right? My ambition is to build a film studio in Accra, okay? There's a lot of land in Accra and I'm gonna be able to build it. I look at England, there isn't that much land that I can build the same ambition. You know what I'm saying? It's like 1 + 1, quite honestly. There is a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of growth potential there. There isn't a Google in Africa.
No, we're in Africa.
But there isn't an African Google.
Oh, okay. That's
And
a different
there's
thought.
1.4 billion people, there's many countries, and there's a lot of thinkers there. Are you going to make another Google somewhere, or can you do it in Africa? That's the answer. And I'm not being, combative. I'm just saying that the opportunities are there if you have the sort of willpower and the strength and the foresight. I definitely think that interfacing is a really important thing. You know what I'm saying? You go to another country, learn the language and the culture before just settling up. But I think going on an educative curve about Africa and the countries in Africa is really part of that journey. You know what I'm saying? Because I think there is a lot of eyeballs on Africa because the growth potential is there. Investors are doing it. There are African hedge funds that are active right now. But there is an interfacing issue. There is the word risk that comes up every time. And I think that, a little bit of work around that area needs to happen. I think, companies like Google can do some work by helping that interfacing, taking people on an educative curve to understand what is available in Africa, who's interested,
I just want to double click on that. And saying that, we obviously announced that we're spending $1 billion in Africa as Google invested $1 billion 2 years ago, which we're rolling that out now.
Yep.
So I think we're really doing a lot on the continent.
And that's amazing, that's exactly.
But clearly there's other companies that can do more.
No, what I'm saying is that there's someone in this room who might get up and go, you know what? I might start a tech business in Africa. It's going to be smaller. It might be a little bit more ambitious than I could do in England and take me longer to do, but I might be able to do that. And I would encourage that person to double click on that.
I knew he was going to go there. Anyway, so guys, I'm going to open it up now to the Dory as well as for some questions from the room as well. Okay, is that cool?
Yeah.
Awesome. So what do we have in the Dory? Oh, I'm going to have to look back.
Welcome, Idris. Feel
Okay, you want to read it out?
Is that, we're reading that one?
Yeah.
You go, you do it,
You sure?
Yeah.
Welcome, Idris. We feel very lucky to have you here. I'm a big, big fan of The Wire. French cinema still has enormous blind spots and I'm often criticized for not reflecting contemporary France. Although it's slowly changing, Do you think that the UK cinema reflects the multiculturalism of this country?
Thank you. Good question. I think that the UK has been on a huge, curve. In London, look at this room. There's every type of ethnicity in this room, but in the cinemas, you don't see that. You don't actually see that. So I don't think it's there yet. But I actually think that the UK has been leading the way in, diverse stories for a while. And I'm a product of that, you know what I'm saying? I started my career 30 years ago. So I definitely feel that UK cinema has a long way to go, but has definitely done some good work moving towards, showing that in its cinema.
Awesome. Take some from the room. Yes.
Hi.
Can we get, we'll get you a mic real quick.
I just wanted to ask a bit about your British African perspective, if you identify like that. You mentioned a lot about how kind of difficult it was growing up, but I wanted to ask, what do you think are the best British African contributions to the space, the best African contributions to British culture? Do you have favourite places you like to eat, music? How do you celebrate Africa in the UK?
Wow. Well, apart from me, no, I'm joking. My favorite Nigerian restaurant's in Peckham. I'm always there. No, absolutely great question. And I'm not sure I can give a really intelligent answer except for, if it wasn't for my sort of love for the sort of, mashup of African culture, West Indian culture, English culture, I wouldn't be who I am today, you know what I mean? So I literally say me as a part of, I'm very proud. I lived in America for a long time, 16 years, and I was walking in there with skinny jeans and they were like, yo, dog, what's good? You know what I'm saying? And now everyone's doing that. And I remember feeling, well, this is who I am. I come from this part of the world. I'm very proud of seeing, xenophobia is a big thing on the continent, in fact, and I feel that in England, Africans have come together. We don't really amplify those divides that we see on the continent as far as xenophobic attitudes are. Nigerians, Ugandans, Sierra Leoneans, Nigerians, did I say them?
Yes, you said that.
Yeah,
yes.
they love everybody. But we have that cross-fertilization, you know what I'm saying, being a product of Ghanaian and Sierra Leonean, and I'm proud of that. I think that's definitely a product of being in this part of the world. More so than in America. When I go to America, I definitely feel there's a Nigerian sector, I feel there's a Sierra Leonean group or whatever, and over here there is a cross-fertilization of that. I feel really proud now that, every UK rapper is African. There's a lot of Kwame's, and I'm big up, but not to say that, to take it away from, our West Indian brothers and everything, but growing up, we weren't the cool kids. So when I'm seeing all my guys up there, man, and they all call me unks for some reason, it makes me very proud. So I hope that answers the question for you.
We'll take another question from the floor before we go back to...
Hello, Idris.
Hi.
I have never rushed to an office so fast.
Okay.
I'm very pleased to have you here.
Thank you.
You have enjoyed much success across different spans of your career as a multi-hyphenate. So I guess my question is, do you enjoy blending a lot of your pursuits, or do you prefer to keep them quite distinctive and separate?
Thank you. And, as I say in Nigeria, take your time. Look, I think what's kind of answers this question, intersectionality is really important, I think, for growth. And I think the UK does that quite well. There are sections that just get connected. And, as someone that, I almost start sweating when someone starts saying, you're an actor, a DJ, a musician. I'm like a little bit embarrassed, I'm not gonna lie. But ultimately, I am very proud of that, you know what I mean? And I'm also proud that, I come from a country where, that's not really hated on. It's kind of like, okay, my guy, go for it. As long as you do it with integrity and you're good at it, you know what I mean, do what you want. And I really encourage that, you know what I mean? I personally encourage that. I think as a filmmaker, it allows me to bring all of those elements into one, quite frankly. You know, I can influence the music, I can influence the design, the storytelling, the thought, the business. So, you know what I mean, blending that via what I do for my day job is really, you know what I mean, my sweet spot. So yes, I do enjoy it. Thank you. That guy in the back, actually, sorry bro, that guy in the back was, yeah, okay.
Ego has the mic, so she's like, you first.
That's fine, it's okay.
No, it's not that, sorry man, I was just conscious, my guy was like, you know.
Thanks for your talk, Idris. My question is, you touched point in regards to the growth and high potential of Africa as a location, and what we've been noticing in tech and from the sounds of what you said, Hollywood. Notice that and they're moving to Africa and working on that. What tips do you have for them to ensure that they're not just relocating people, but they're actually growing local talent and nurturing them to help with the actual Africa ecosystem?
Yeah, great question and great statement. Like, you're making sure that these companies and this opportunity doesn't just come in, take out, and we've seen that before with minerals, right? They come, they take, and they leave. I think, the educational component is really important. Setting up schools, diplomas, courses that actually will stay. The knowledge stays with the people. I think that's a really important part. As a filmmaker and building the studios, what I'm hoping to build into policy is that your HOD, your heads of department, has to hire locally and has to train them up. And so by the time they not leave, but by the time they've moved on, there is another baby HOD coming up, and that's just a process. And if we pull it into policy, i.e. you want to come to this country, you have to teach someone before you leave. That's it, and I don't think that's that difficult. I also feel like, making sure that, there's this conception that there's no money in Africa. Joking, there's a lot of money in Africa. And if you're going to build a business, please make sure there's African money involved in that investment so that it is a twofold. We have something to give and lose the same way as the investment groups. So I think that's a massive component. And then I think the other thing is, I talked about interfacing, but making sure that we understand the culture and the environment we're walking into. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I've seen some, in Sierra Leone, I don't want to name anyone, but there are groups that have moved into Sierra Leone that are doing incredible work, building infrastructure, but they don't integrate at all. And that's tough. That's not good. That's basically, helping us, but not really integrated, and that's not going to work. You know what I mean?
One last bit.
I'll get my guy, man.
Oh, man. Okay. What did he do to you, man? That's my dude. I didn't do anything to him.
Yeah, everybody's good with me. But Zachariah. All of the Black Googlers in here work in a predominantly white space. Our African Googlers who are on the call are responsible for educating on that interface that you talked about every day. And quite frankly, it can be fatiguing, exhausting, challenging, whatever word that you want.
Yeah.
So working in predominantly white industries, what do you tell yourself? How do you deal with those moments where you're like, I'm fighting the good fight, but I'm tired?
Yeah.
I
think I was talking to Alex about this morning, that, the progress, the journey, what's the word I want to look at? The progression cycle of growth in Africa is just slower. It just is. And, take your time, sis, is real. It's like, take your time. We don't move as quickly like that. We're very, I'd say, cautious. And maybe it's part of our history, maybe it's part of just who we are, but caution is part of that. And I think we all have to take into consider, when investments talk about risk, well, we talk about caution, you know what I mean? Like, who are these guys and what do they want? And that takes time to move past. For me, it's a bit like the bees and the queen bee. The queen bee doesn't move quickly for anyone. So as a as a thought process, as something to sort of acknowledge when you are thinking about going into Africa. Don't rush. If you think this is going to be a quick deal, it's not. You have to go the long haul. You have to take your time. And you have to accept that, you know, Africa has a history that we've been taken for a ride in many, 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 many ways over centuries and centuries and centuries, not only by others, but by our own. So there's a natural, you know, what's the word? There's a natural, there's a natural hesitation, which starts to bake into the system of how things are done.
But I think you were going somewhere else with that question.
That's a good answer, but I was talking more personally as well. Like,
Yeah, more personally, what do you do? Well, how do you keep up the good fight?
Well, I mean, first of all, I try not to mark how far I've come, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just keep my head down and keep going. Because the moment I look up and I'm like, I haven't even moved, get discouraged, you know what I'm saying? And that's part of my personal way of dealing with stuff. I also spread myself out a little bit, you know, plant this seed over here and then maintain this seed over here. So my mind's I'm not just doing one thing. You know, I think the richness of Africa allows you to do that a little bit. So if you've got a tech idea, you're working on it and it's taking time, look at the travel sector and do something smaller in there and it's a little bit more agile. But don't watch the plant grow because it will certainly, you know what I mean, just kill you basically so slow. So for me, that's what I do. I sort of spread myself a little thin and sort of try and maintain a few plots of land rather than just focus on one.
It's interesting. Any other, one more question?
Hey Idris.
How you doing?
My family love your music so much, so they will kill me if I don't ask you this, but is there an Afrobeat album coming that we should be on the lookout for?
Afrobeats album, don't.
I'm sweating over here, man. Come on.
I'm waiting to hear what you're going to say.
There's not an album yet. No, but you know, he's a hater, man. No, there's not an album. You know, there is probably a collection of music. You know, I feel like I'm more in the curation space rather than, you know, putting out a whole album out. People might take a verse from me, but I'm not ready for a whole album. But I definitely feel like, you know, years ago, when I was playing Nelson Mandela, I made an album called Me Mandela. And I went to South Africa and worked with some phenomenal South Africans, musicians. And I feel like I could do a bit more of that, you know, curate some great musicians as part of a sort of collective of music. So tell your family I said, what's up, man?
Please, let's give a round of applause for Idris and thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
And happy Africa Day, everyone. Have a beautiful day. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.